Now the Monogram Wizard is a very helpful tool, and you can find it here. If you go to New File, you will see here this dialog and this window, which is separated here in groups. So you should be familiar with most of them here, with Auto Digitizer and Stitch Image. So here, this one is new here. That's the Monogram Wizard. Select it, and we proceed by clicking OK. So this will launch the wizard itself. Now you see here this window shows up, and now first of all you can resize the window. Let's make it a little bigger so you have a good view what's happening here. Now the window is divided in 3 sections. You can see here on the left hand side we have the monogram styles or templates. We have a single letter monogram, then we have a 2-letter monogram, we have a 2-letter monogram in a staircase ascending, going up, and we have a 2-letter monogram descending, going down, and so on and so forth. And you can see scrolling down here, you have a good selection of monogram styles. Now let me choose one of them here, a classic monogram 3-letter monogram with the letter in the center being the biggest one. So once you select your monogram style here, you will see in the center part of the screen, you will see things changing, all right, according to what you're selecting. You can see here in the center we have the A, B, C, and on the right hand side of this dialog you will see the settings, parameters that are changeable. You can change certain things. For example, since I chose a 3-letter monogram, I will have 3 letters here, text 1, text 2, and text 3. Right now we have A, B, C. Let's change text 1 to R. I'll change text 2 to O, and text 3 to S. And you see here this button apply, so let's hit that button, and that should change my letters accordingly. You see the change happened there. Before I proceed here with showing you how to change the colors and the font style, you also see here there are like these baby bells. These are decorations. So you can add decorations to your monogram. And looking here at the bottom of the window, we have the decors. They're showing up because there's a check mark on this box here. So if you don't want any decors, I will deactivate it, and this should make them disappear. So you see here the monogram itself becomes the main focus. Then you have another checkbox here called frame. The frame is what you see here on the top and the bottom. So we will come to this in a second. Let's continue here with what parameters or settings can be changed. So I changed the letters. We can change the colors. Clicking on the color box here will open up a dialog with on the top here you can see the thread chart, so you can change the thread manufacturer. Let's keep it with Madeira 40, and let's change from blue to, let's say, this orange color here, and I click on import, and that should, clicking on apply, should change that color. You see R is changing here. So let's do the same with the other two. This one here, let's change that to more like this bluish color, and the S, we'll change that to, let's choose like this yellowish color here. Click on import, and then click on apply. So that's how we can change the colors. Now let's also change the font style. You see here, right now it's using a font called Blackboard. Let's change that to something more suitable. For example, Bridal Path should be a good one. Click on apply, and you see you already can you can see what the Monogram Wizard is doing. It's showing you what is happening as you change things, and that is the advantage of this feature here. Now let's change, for example, the frame here. The way how you change the frame is you just click on it, and this will activate here on the right hand side of your window a selection of frames. Now we have quite a few of them here. Let's choose something nice. All right, let's choose, for example, let me see. Okay, let me try this one here. So I select it, and this should change the frames here. Okay. All right. Once you are satisfied with your monogram and with your frame, you click here on OK, and that should launch the monogram that you have designed into a new page. And not only that, you will also see that the Monogram Wizard itself will also be located into another page. You can see that here we have the result of my choice on as design tree, and we can always go back here on this page, Monogram 2. We can change things here as well. All right, once you go here into this window, then you can do your usual editing. For example, let's select letter R, for example, here, and you see here on the right hand side, I have one of my docking windows. Here it's called the properties, segment properties. So I can see densities and all kinds of settings that can be changed. Let's do a zoom in here, and let's increase the size of the letter R like that. I can position it into a new location, and then change it to orange again. The S, let's do the same thing. Resize the S as well, so we come more or less same size like the R, and we'll change that to yellow. Okay, let's hit 3 so we can see in a 3D how my modifications are done. Okay, so you see here, you can also do, of course, let's go to the sequence view, and here you can see all the segments. So you can do your editing as you are used to it. All right, change colors, change the size of segments, or create groups, and so on and so forth. All right, so let's go and have a look at the next feature on my list here, which is new fonts. With DG15, you have an additional fonts included into the system. So let me close here these 2 pages. And well, what I have prepared myself, of course, going, let's start a new page here, and I'll select the text tool, and I have grouped the new fonts that are available in DG15 here into this selection here. So looking at the names, we have a font called Lasso. Then we have a new font called Line Small 4 millimeters. Then we have one called Museo, one called Nimbus Sans Condensed, and one called San Vito Pro. Let's choose the Lasso font. Let's open it up. Okay, there it is. And let's type in here a text. Catch me if you can. So the Lasso font is a nice, it's a fancy font very useful for the more artistic approach, I would say. Okay, let's also change the color to something more attractive. Change it from this dark navy blue to this brownish color. And let me hit Shift X to hide the outlines. And let's select the slow redraw ribbon here. And I will Shift X to hide the outlines. So you see the lasso font is basically simulating a lasso, all right, like a rope. So you have the uppercase and lowercase letters going into this kind of stitch generation, you know, doing it in like little pieces of ovals, simulating the rope. That would be the lasso font. All right, so let's move on to the next topic, which is vertical lettering. So you may notice, if you're using DG15, you may notice here at you know, where you have the text tools, there is a new symbol here, which is this one here called vertical. That's the vertical text tool. So let's make a couple of examples with this vertical text tool, and let's choose a font called maybe Block Rounded, and let's type in here. Let's write something small. Let's write Roland. Okay, so the vertical text tool works, as the word already says, by clicking one point, and then, you know, if you want to constrain the the vertical line to really be a 90-degree line, you can use your Shift key, and that will constrain. By purpose, I will extend these 2 points between point A and B quite a long distance. Okay, and we should change the text size to something smaller, maybe 12 millimeters. Let's make it small, even smaller. Let's make it 8 millimeters. Okay, so I'm doing this by purpose because you can see now the text Roland is being distributed between these 2 points, and it's aligning on the top. It's starting at the top, and it's respecting the height, 8 millimeters, and that's why we have a gap between the D and the last point here. Now I'll make a copy and paste. Let me put the Roland, a copy of the text segment Roland here, and there are a couple of choices here. You see here there is one setting called vertical justify. So of course, right now the choice is, the default is set to top. That's why the R is starting here, and whatever space is left to the second point, that's going to be a gap. Now let's choose this one to vertical justify to the bottom, and you will see here that will push the whole text down so it finishes at the bottom. Let's make a copy and paste, and we make one more. I'll place this one here, and let's choose the other selection, which is fit to line. So fit to line will actually increase the size, the height of the letters so that they will fit exactly between point A and point B. All right, so this is a new tool, a new text tool, in case you would like to position your letters in a vertical manner. And it's also for those of you who are not aware, there are other languages like Chinese and Japanese. So in those countries, texts are written many times in a vertical fashion. That's why it's very useful especially for those countries. All right. So let's move on to the next topic, which is editing individual letters. So basically, yeah, let me delete those text lines here, and let's choose the text tool. Let's change the font style. For some reason, let's use Cafe Latte this time. Cafe Latte, and let's type in a name. Like so. So we have our name here. Now, you are able in DG15 to change within one text segment. You can change needles of letters. Let's make an example with the uppercase letter L here. So the way how it works is you see here on each letter there is an anchor point or a bead in the center of the letter and also on the bottom. So you select the one that is in the center, and then you just change the needle here, the bottom. So that will change that specific letter. It will start the L with needle number 6. Let's do the same here with the M. We select the M and change that to, let's say, needle number 2. All right. And as you can see, by selecting the segment itself in the sequence view, this remains one text segment. All right. So this is quite neat. You are able to change needles of individual letters within a text segment. All right, let's move to the next topic.
Before we move, I have a couple of questions actually.
Okay. Yeah.
The first one related to the horizontal and vertical text is why, when you click on an angle, the text is horizontal?
Yes, I would say. I mean, with the new vertical text tool, each one of the letters will always be positioned at a 90-degree angle towards the 2 points that you are entering. Okay, so that's why, for example, you see here I placed point A and point B at a little angle there. It's not really 90 degrees, but each one of the letters are exactly 90 degree positioned towards that line. Okay, and with the regular text tool, I click point A here on top and point B here on the bottom, so that's 90 degrees. But the letters are positioned at an opposing angle towards those 2 points. I hope.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay.
Second question related to what you did a little while ago is, what is the fastest method to set up the properties on the right for doing fonts?
Well, I would say the answer is it's a choice, because you have many ways how you can enter segment properties. One of the ways to enter segment properties is selecting the segment, and let me make this a little bit bigger, and double clicking on the selected segment very quickly, so you enter into segment properties that way. You can enter it that way. The other way is you select the segment, and you have here at the top, you have a ribbon, a segment properties ribbon, we call this here. But you will only be able to see this segment properties ribbon if you have actually activated it here. In the menu view, you have down here where it says properties bar, you see I have a check mark. That's why my properties bar is showing up here. And here you have the most basic settings. If you want to enter into the full set of properties, you can see here the Thunderbolt. So you hit on here, and that's also one way how you can access those segment settings. And there is an additional way, which is, you see here in what we call this docking window here. I have tabs here, and one of my tabs is properties. All right. So also here you see there is a slider bar. So these are properties that are related to the segment that I have selected. In this case, it's a text segment, and you have various views here. Okay, so the one that is set as default is like this is the basic. These are basic settings, so it's the view is being filtered and it's only showing the most basic settings. But if you click this view here, which is show all properties, then you will see that suddenly you have a slider bar. So because you have a lot more visible settings here, and you also have tabs here. Okay, so this is, for example, related to the satin parts of the text segment. This is related to stitch length, because you also have some of text or fonts are running stitch fonts, and so on and so forth. So this is also a way how you can change settings. So my preference, personally, I like to enter the segment properties by just double clicking on a selected segment quickly. Okay, I hope that was the answer to the question.
Yep, thank you. And yeah, you can just continue on.
Okay, so we move towards the next topic, which I have here on my list, which is it's a new way to how stitches will travel in a complex fill shape. We call this revolving complex fill. Okay, so let me Control A this here and delete that, and I will draw. I'm a little bit lazy, so I will draw an ellipse, and I will convert that ellipse. I can convert by either choosing the symbol here, convert, or on my keyboard, if you hit the equal key, that will also access you to this conversion, this list of conversion options. In my case, I will convert this art segment into a complex fill. There we are. Let's make it as big as possible, and I will change the fill density to something a little bit higher, so we can we open up the density here a little bit. So this is the norm. It's a normal way how a complex fill goes. Just to show you here, let's place the start point at the bottom and the exit point at the top. Make it a little bit smaller. So, and let's also hit Shift P to mark the points. And with the drawing ribbon, Shift X to hide the outlines. With the drawing ribbon, you see this is the classic way how a complex fill will Shift X will fill in the shape. Let me zoom a little bit bigger here. So you see it's moving from one line. It's traveling from one line and then going to the next one. One line and then to the next one. Now, the new revolving complex fill will fill in the area. Let's make this a little bit smaller. And I will Control copy and paste and move this one here aside. Let's change the second shape here, second complex fill, to double click. So I enter into the segment properties, and the The revolving complex fill should be here, where you see complex fill, general. Yes, you can see it right here. There is a new setting called revolving. All right, so let's check this box here. We click on apply, and something has happened. All right, let me zoom in, make this as big as possible. I will hit the drawing ribbon, and let's have a look how. Make this one a little bit smaller, like so. So let's, okay. So you see that now the way how the stitches are traveling, you have one line, and there is quite a gap between that line and the previous line, but the line that is following, it's filling in that gap. All right, so we have a line with a gap, and then the one that is returning, it's filling in that gap. That's the reason why we call this revolving fill, because it's filling in a revolving way. And if you ask me what is this useful for, actually there is a good chance that the shapes will cover, the stitches will cover the fabric better. So you can work with slightly less density or more open density, and the stitches will still fill in the shape properly, so that the fabric is not showing through. And in other words, you can save a little bit stitches by filling in your complex fill area like that. All right. So that is that has been a request from customers in the past, and we have responded to that request, and we have added that in DG15. All right, so Trevor, I don't know if are there any questions at this point so far?
Not related to this at the moment.
Okay, so then let's move on to the next one. The next item I have here on my list is is called random fill values. Okay, so this is related to fills, can be complex fills, but also satins with random patterns. All right, so let me close this page here in order to make this more understandable. Let me load the design, which I have here, called, let's see here.
Roland?
Yes, Trevor?
We have one question here.
Okay.
It is, does the revolving fill address the open areas on the edges? So I think what she was talking about is the left side of it. There were little gaps in between.
Okay, so let me reproduce what I did before. Let's make this ellipse again. Convert this to a complex fill. Okay, and let's move the start point down here. Let's open up density quite a bit, so we can. One of the reasons you see larger gaps is because I intentionally I'm opening up the density quite a bit. So usually you would not work with densities that high. I'm using a density of 1 millimeter. Okay, so of course if I change the let's go here, complex fill, general, change this to revolving. Okay, bear in mind we are working with a density of 1 millimeter, and we are working with a stitch length of 4 millimeters. So the gaps that were pointing, customer was pointing out, are this here. Yeah. So this one, that will always happen because of my high density here. All right. But you can play around with some settings here. Probably like let me see here, complex fill, and stitch length. Let's override the stitch length, make this a little bit smaller, maybe 3.2 millimeters. Okay, and then we have something here called, let me see, connection ends, chiseled. Let me change this. Okay, this is not doing what I expected. Let's change this to square. So this one would be a good choice here, square. Again, you know, if you're working with a very opened up density, you would choose a squared end, connection end here. That's what I would suggest. Okay. And if you're working with
when the density is much smaller, then you wouldn't really be able to see any gap in between it, right?
Correct. Yes. Okay. So if you're working with a normal density, I will keep that with chiseled, and let's use a more normal density here. Let's say 0.5. Okay, so that would be a more normal density, and you see this works pretty well. So you will not have those gaps at the on the edges. They will not be visible. Okay. Trevor, did that address the question?
Yep.
Okay, so
got another one. Can you tighten the stitches, make the spacing closer instead of changing the shape at the ends of the stitch?
Yeah, making it tighter in terms of changing the density, right? Usually the density that covers the fabric pretty well is 0.40. That's a density that will cover the fabric for sure. Yeah. But it also, you know, if you ask me what is a proper density for a complex fill, there are many many situations which will affect, for example, the thread color and the fabric color. If you have a very strong contrast between fabric and thread color, then you would tighten up the density more. But if you have like more tone and tone kind of situation between fabric and thread, then you can open up the density quite a bit. Okay, so those would be the factors that I would consider when choosing the proper densities.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move to the to the next one, the next topic here, which is a random fill values. So you see I have a design on my screen, and let's open up here the sequence view. You see many parts of the butterfly here are done in a complex fill, like the red parts, with a random pattern. Okay, by purpose. This is done by purpose. So let me choose one of these complex fills, like select this one, and we have a new setting here. If you go to the segment properties, and let me see, complex fill, general, yes. You see here there is a section called randomness. All right, so you can change that randomness. Default is 40%. So let's change this one to 60%. So we're making it more random. Click on apply. You see how the pattern changed already a little bit. And then you can also change the random minimum range and the random maximum range. So I like, for example, to work with a little bit longer stitch lengths here. Let's apply here 6 millimeter as random range, the maximum. So you can see here on the pattern how the stitches become more separated and they are random. All right, and you can also influence or modify the minimum range. So right now the smallest stitch being generated is 1 millimeter. So let's change that to, let's say, 3 millimeter. All right, so that will change your pattern quite a bit. Okay, it remains random, but with the selections, the parameters that I've chosen here, I will end up with less stitches. All right. So maybe at this point, I will also use a feature that I guess some of you know, some of you probably don't. It's called the settings painter. Okay, so you see I've changed the pattern, the randomness of the pattern here of this wing of this butterfly. So I want to apply that to the other wing as well. So what I do is I select the segment, click on the settings painter. Okay, so basically I'm copying the settings, and then I select the other wing here and I'm pasting those settings. You see now the wing here on the right hand side has the exact same parameters. Now the random fill values are also applicable to satin segments. You see here on the wing we have a satin stitch at the edge, and let me change the color so we can better see what is happening here. Let's change this to this brown color, goldenrod. Okay, much better. Now, in order to make use of the random fill values, let's go to the segment properties here. I will select the satin stitch itself, and you see here in properties, it's showing me the fill pattern is a regular satin pattern. So I'll click here and I will change this to random. Okay, so now we have a satin stitch with a random pattern. Let me make this as big as possible. We have a good look at it. So, oh, I changed this here, sorry. Random, that's what I want. Apply. Okay, then there's the 4. Okay, now you see here we have the same values like the values that we saw on the complex fill segment are also visible here on the satin segment. So let's change the randomness here as well. Let's say change it to 60%. All right, so you see things are changing here, and we also change the satin random range to a little higher value here. Let's say 5 millimeters. You see how the stitches become longer here, and let's also change the minimum random range to, let's choose 3 millimeter. All right, so we have 3 millimeters, perhaps a little bit too long for the minimum. Let's change that to 2. Okay, so we have a random looking part of the wing here as well on the satin stitch. Okay, so this is very useful parameter if you want to manipulate the randomness of complex fills and also satins, provided that they have random patterns in them. Now there's also a new setting that is dealing with randomness on densities, on satin densities. So let me try to show you how that works, and let me create here a square, and I will I will convert this into a satin segment. Okay, there we are. Make this as big as possible. And we change density, changes to 1 millimeter. Okay, and let's also move the entry and exit points towards the ends, more or less. Good. Now, let me also copy and paste this 3 times so that we can compare various random densities. Now, this one here, I'll select the segment and I'll double click on it in order to access the segment settings. And let me see here, it's in satin. Yes, you see here where you have the satin view, and then let's focus here on this one here, density profile. So you may notice that there is a new setting here called random density. All right, so let's check mark this one, and let's have a look how the stitches are distributed, the density, by selecting 50% randomness. So I click here, and you can see quite well here. So how densities are changing within the satin segment in a random manner. All right, so this is very useful if you're doing designs that and you want to achieve like a hand look, handmade, random look. Okay, so this is quite fashionable since a couple of years now to achieve this kind of look. Now let's select this segment now, and let's change the randomness to, let me see how far I can go here, 80%. All right, so you see 80% works wilder here, so the results are much more random. All right, so the higher you go, the more randomness you will achieve, and the lower you go, let's use this one here, change that to, where is it again here, satin general, not general, it was density profile, random density. Let's change this one to, let's say, 30%. Okay, so this one, the result will be less randomness here. All right, so I think with those two new settings, you are able to achieve that kind of hand look, vintage embroidery style. All right, so I'm going to ask at this point of time again, are there any questions so far?
We have one on the previous section we were talking about with the butterfly.
Yeah.
We'll just wait a minute to see if anyone has anything about the randomness. But the question, I'm just going to read it as it is, would you select the segments of the wings with Control D in order to duplicate the wing properties, changing all the wing satins?
So all the wings, you mean do you mean the satin stitches on the edges here, or can you repeat the question again, Trevor? I'm not really.
Yes. So would you select the segments of the wings in order to duplicate the wing properties, changing all the wing satins?
Okay, so I hope I understand properly here. So I guess it, are you referring to the settings painter here? So if that is a question, well, let's say I want to add to all the other parts here, to this brown part of the wing, the satin, this one here and this one here. I want to include.
if you wanted to make the right side the same as the left side, can you copy the properties, or do you have to set them again manually?
No, well, the properties can be copied and pasted with these two symbols here. But the duplicate button is very different. For example, if I select this segment here and I press Control D, so you see I'm duplicating this segment. So now I have an identical copy basically. But if I want to have this one, let's say, to be matching this part here, then I need to work on it. I need to reflect it. For example, here you have the reflect tool. I would change this to this direction. But you see here the shape of this part of the wing is a little bit different than this one here. So you would need to work a little bit on it. For example, rotate it, try to place it here, then stretch it. So if you want to do this kind of editing, you can do that, yes, but it's not the ideal. I would not say it's not the ideal case, yeah. And the reason being that part of the wing on the right hand side
Okay.
is a different shape than what I see here on the left hand side.
Right. Well, you're able to set the properties on the left side and then just copy them to the wing on the right side as well.
Yes. Okay, so let's do that. I select this segment here, so I want to have the properties. So I would choose this tool here, copy settings. Okay, so the settings are copied now. They are like in a clipboard, and then I select this segment, which is, if I go here to the sequence view, I can perfectly see this is a satin path, and then I paste the settings into that. And you see now we have the exact same properties on the right wing, the same as we have on the left wing.
Okay.
All right. So let's move forward to the next item I have here on the list. And this is dealing with it's a new tool called Complex Fill Modifier. All right. In order to get an idea what that means, let me close this page and close this one as well. So the Complex Fill Modifier is a tool that you can see on the specialized digitizing tools here. You see here, this one here, Complex Fill Modifier. Now, how this works, let me open a couple of shapes that I have prepared here. I think I should put this one. Okay, so we have two artwork segments. Let's see, left and right. Actually, we have two here, so let's delete one and let's delete one here. We only need one piece each. So what I need to do is, this complex fill modifier works with complex fills. Okay, so I will convert this shape here into a complex fill. There we go. Let's make it as big as possible. And the first, we have complex fill modifiers for carved fills, and we have complex fill modifier for programmed fills. Let me do the program fill first. So I'll convert this into a complex fill, and let's place the start point down here. Hit G to generate the stitches, and I will also change the let's do it right away here, programmed fill, and I will change the stitch line type from straight to make it a little
Roland,
bit
are
more.
you able to speak a bit louder?
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me good now?
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay, so I will, in order to make it more attractive, I will also work with a wave, a stitch line type wave. So once you have selected wave here, you can, I hope you're familiar with it. If not, you see here there is a tool called wave. So I'm going to digitize a wave. And let me start a little bit outside the shape. So with the quick draw mode, which I chose, you can also use Bezier if you want. So I'm going to draw a path more or less going the same way as I can see here the shape here, like so. Okay, so now I have my complex fill done as a program fill wave. And let's change the pattern from line to something more attractive. Let's choose pattern 212. This one is quite good. There you go. And let me also change the program pattern stitch length to a little smaller value. Instead of 4 millimeters, let's do 3.5 millimeters. Okay, now let's integrate into this fill a complex fill modifier. So I'm going to choose complex fill modifier right now. And with any one of your drawing modes like quick draw or circle or Bezier, you can draw now an island. I will digitize with quick draw here an island. Let's say here with control I can digitize curved points. So I'm digitizing the little island here. I hit O on the keyboards to close the shape, and then right click. I select the segment, and you see now this segment here, which is selected, it's a complex fill modifier segment. I will change that to be a programmed fill as well, and I will choose the pattern of that program fill to be, let me see, to something here on my list. Let's choose maybe this one here. Okay, and in order to generate the stitches, we select both the complex fill and the modifier, and I hit G to generate. So what is happening here, you see we have a fill within a fill. In this case, the main fill type is a program fill in both cases. All right, so we have outside a program fill and inside a completely different one. And I can play around now. I can create another complex fill modifier. Let's do that. Again, I choose, well, first select the segment here, then choose complex fill modifier. And this time I will hit R for circle, and I will draw a little circle here inside with 1, 2, 3 points. There we are. Right click and select this circle. And once again, I will change the complex fill modifier to be a programmed fill. And I will choose the pattern to be, let's choose a, you see I have a chain stitch somewhere here. Chain stitch. Okay, so I select all of them, hit G to generate, and we have now hit Shift X, hide the outlines, and hit 3D. And for you to see this, how the stitches are traveling here, I'll select the draw the ribbon, and now you will see that we have varying program fill patterns according to where your complex fill modifier are. You see here we have pattern here. There was a little chain stitch section there. We have this pattern here, and then it's hitting again the chain stitch, and it's doing it in a continuous way. That's important. It's not just trimming a thread and jumping around. No, it's doing the whole thing in a continuous way. So this is a very neat way, very neat tool to create, to be a little bit creative here with your complex fills. All right, so this works very well here with the program fills in complex fills. All right, so let's get rid of the drawing ribbon and I hit Shift X again. Let me show you now the complex fill modifier on a carved fill. All right, so let's do this segment. Convert this one more time into a complex fill, and this time I will. Okay, let me also change the entry and exit points in a better location. Make this a little bit smaller, and we'll change this one to be a carved tile. Okay, a carved tile, and yeah, let's change the pattern to be, let's see, this one here, pattern 7. And let me also change the straight line here. Instead of having a straight line, again, I will create a wave fill. Choose the wave fill tool here, and let's draw. Let's start here with control so that we get a curvy shape here, like so. Okay, so we'll choose the complex fill modifier one more time, and let's make a circle here, a little island, which is a circle, and I will choose this complex fill modifier to be, yeah, let's choose standard and random. Let's see how this looks like. All right, you see, we have the same kind of scenario, but in this case we have a carved tile pattern on the main shape, and we have a random complex fill pattern on the inside. And one more time, choosing the drawing ribbon here. Let's have a look how the stitches are traveling. Shift X to hide the outlines. You see again here we have the same situation. We're having the patterns done in a continuous way. All right, so you see where the circle is, that's where you have the random pattern, and on the main shape you have pattern 7. All right, so this was an example, each one for a carved tile and one for a program pattern complex fill shape. So once again, if there are any questions at this point of time, Trevor?
I've got one here. When you add the second shape, so the circle inside, does the machine stitch one shape first and the second over it?
No. No, it doesn't do that. That's why I tried to show that with the drawing ribbon. Let me try to show that one more time. Let me change the exit point to, let's say, to be here, and let me zoom in real big here. Okay, and let's hit drawing ribbon. And probably let me get rid of the 3D view. Shift P so you can see the stitch points. And I'm going to do this in a slow mode, slow play forward mode. So do you see how the stitch lines are being done in a continuous way? There is no trim where it starts, let's say the island where the circle is, and then jumping from one place to the other. No, this is done in a continuous way, in a logical way.
Right. And what happens if the island that you've made there, the circle, is a different color?
No, that you cannot do. That you cannot do.
Okay.
If you have that kind of thing, that's not a complex fill modifier anymore. Mhm.
Right, that would just be a separate object.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
And then the next one is once you create the complex fill modifier, can you move or edit that shape?
I think so, yes. I mean, I've never tried that, but let's do that. Let me get rid of the 3D view here. Sorry, the draw ribbon. Shift X, show the outlines. Let me hide the stitches. So the question is, if you take this complex fill modifier and you move it somewhere else, and maybe make it a little bit smaller, like so. Okay, so I'm doing 2 modifications, and then I select yet again both, hit G to generate. So you see how the complex fill modifier shape, which I made smaller and place it in a different position, is also moving to that new position.
Move to a different area.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, you can edit.
So once you've placed the shape, you can still go back and edit it afterwards. You just have to generate it again.
Exactly, yes. Let me do one more modification. Let's say you want to modify the anchor points here, so I hit N on the keyboard. So let's make a crazy thing here. So you see, I modified those 2 anchor points. I hit G, and now my shape has changed completely. All right.
Yep, that covers it. It's good.
All right. So let's move to the next point here, which I have on my list, is line carving for steel stitch. Okay, so you're now able to, when you have a steel stitch, let me create a steel stitch here. That's a steel stitch tool. And let's also choose a width that enables me to really place a carve line in there. So let's do 4 millimeters. And I'll digitize my steel stitch with the quick draw mode. Okay, let's say this shape here. There I am. Let me zoom in so we have a good view about what's going to happen here. So I select my steel stitch, and well, you know that you have, where is it? Here. There is the line carving tool available here in specialized digitizing tools. So I will grab this one, and I will, again, you can use any of your drawing modes, Bezier, Quick Draw, etc. So I will kind of create a wavy path within my steel stitch area. Okay, let's do it until here. Right click, and I select both of these segments and hit G to generate. And we can already see that something happened here. Let me hit 3 for 3D. You can see that we have created a line carve area inside a steel stitch segment. And this was not possible in prior versions. All right. Now, let me move forward. I don't know if there are any questions. Please ask. Trevor, let me know. If not, I will move to the next item.
Yep, I will let you know. We've got just about 10 minutes left or so.
Okay.
So I think width compression was actually covered in Alex's first webinar. So if you just want to do the automatic gap, and then we can wrap it up for today.
Okay. So the automatic gap is one of my favorites because it's really a very intelligent kind of settings that you have available. Let me delete this here. In order to show that, let me create a. Let's do it with a text tool. Typically letter H, and let's use block new. It should be fine. Choose a rather large size. Let's say maybe 60 millimeters. Press. Okay, so make it a little bit smaller, like so. Now you have situations where you have text like this letter H in a rather large size, and this can cause problems here. We convert this to segments, and let me change. Well, let's keep the start point here on the top left and the exit point at the bottom right, and let me get rid of the 3D view here. Now you may be familiar with a setting here. I'll go into the segment properties, and there is a setting in quality control which is called automatic overlap. All right, so the automatic overlap is very useful in order to create, I call these little triangles in areas where you have intersecting satin stitches. Like here, you have a satin stitch with a stitch angle of 0 degree, and here in the horizontal bar, you have the exact opposite stitch angle. So in such cases, a digitizer would digitize this bar here with this little triangle going up here, so that you're basically closing the gap here. All right, and at the other hand, where one segment is traveling into the other one, you have, in my case, I have an overlap distance of 2 millimeters. That's why this triangle is 2 millimeters high, and on this side, the satin stitch is traveling 2 millimeters into the next one here. So at this point of time, let me show you how the stitches are traveling. Okay, Shift X. So here you will see that at this point you will have the little triangle being built. Perfect. And then you have the satin stitches going on top. So this area will be perfectly covered. Okay, you will not have any troubles with fabric showing through and stitches being pushed and pulled apart, so creating an ugly gap. That's why we have this overlap feature. Okay, and on this side, you see the stitches are traveling into the vertical satin, but here you will have a problem. All right, so here you will have a problem because these stitches are going to pull those stitches apart, and here you will definitely have a gap. And you will definitely have a gap if you have very wide satin stitches. That's why I intentionally created this H with a very large height, and in order to reproduce the problem. All right, so here we will have a problem. I hope you are understanding what I'm trying to say here. So the problem will be you will probably have a gap here, and the fabric will be showing through. Now, in order to alleviate or solve this problem, we have created a new setting, which is called, here in quality control, it's called fill gap. All right, so let me go into general first. Let me see, where is it? Cross methods, critical sound. Okay, fill gap. Fill gap here. So you see here where it says fill gap, there is a tick box here, add fix gap. So I'll click this on. Actually, before I do this, let me first show you how the stitches are going to affect here. So you see it's traveling here, and here now you have this problem happening. The gap will happen right there, right there, right there. Okay, now if I select the segment and I apply the fill gap, which again is in quality control, fill gap, I select the add fix gap, and you see here you have two settings: repeats and angle tolerance. So repeats 1, let's keep that for a moment on 1, and I will show you what's going to happen here. So I will trace stitches again, and let me zoom in real big here. Now let's trace how the stitches are going. So you see here it's creating the gap, so we have a problem. But when it's coming here to the last stitch of the intersection, here it's going up and going down, and then it's continuing to travel. So basically it's closing the gap here. All right. And if you have extreme situations with very wide satin stitches, you may sometimes want to you want more repeats. Okay, so let's change the fill gap, change repeats to 2. Hit on apply, and
Are you able to show it just a bit slower this time? Because I think it's lagging a little bit behind.
oh, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to trace the stitches. You see it's going down here. Let me go a little bit faster. So it's going down, and once it's coming towards the last stitch of the intersection, I have 1 stitch going up, 1 stitch going down, and then since I have 2 repeats, it will go up 1 more time, down 1 more time, and then continuing the path. So was it okay this time, Trevor, or was it lagging again?
Yep, that showed well.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say this concludes the presentation, the webinar.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. You can go to our YouTube channel if you want any help with some future issues, and if you do have any videos, any training videos that you would like to see in the future, please let us know. You can email us at marketing@pulsemicro.com, and then we'll be able to start creating some training videos that people are looking for. So we have just over 30, I think there's 34 total right now on our YouTube channel, and they don't have sound, but they're just quick little visual follow-alongs for how to use the tools, and we'd like to make more in the future, so if you have any requests, send them to us. All right, well, thank you, Roland,
Yes,
for doing the demonstration.
you're welcome, and I also thank all of the attendees. Thank you for your time. I hope you learned a thing or two, and you will probably see me and my colleagues in the future again with